to flow under the Missouri River where it connects to Lake Oahe. And I guess I'm pronouncing that correctly. It was relocated, however, knowing that if a leak should occur, and in all likelihood it will occur, that leak would adversely affect the capital of North Dakota. How convenient to worry about the majorly white population, but it's perfectly fine to destroy the Native American reservation. Yay, government. The probability of leaks on any pipeline is very high. And this is even expected. It's even an expected loss to any company that's transporting crude oil in this manner. Much the same as a restaurant might consider food in the warming bin to be tossed out after it extends beyond the time in which it should be sold. Just go to YouTube and type in pipeline leak, and you'll see how devastating this is. In fact, there's one I believe in Russia that actually explodes, or it leaks and is somehow ignited under the river, and it literally looks like an Armageddon scene. It's a mess. Here's the whole mess by the numbers. Cost of the pipeline, $3.8 billion. Length of the pipeline, 1,134 miles. This pipeline will pump 470,000 barrels a day. Now, at the time, as of this broadcast, that calculates to 23,410,700 a day of oil will flow through this pipeline. Now, this pipeline is so important. You think it's going to drop the price of gas any? No. But basically, $23.5 million a day will flow through this pipeline per day. What do you think the annual income is there at Standing Rock? Amount of people at Standing Rock that would be affected, obviously, by a spill? 8,000. Get this, current number of protectors standing in protest, aside from the 8,000 at the Standing Rock, the residents? Well, last I heard, 7,000 from all around the world. And every nation, every tribal nation on this continent. This is a very important time. What we are witnessing here is a coming together of the indigenous people in such a manner that has not been seen. Had this type of what do you want to call it? Alignment? Had this type of coming together? What happens to my vocabulary? I get so caught up in the story, my vocabulary. Oh, it's public education. I forget. Right. Had this type of allegiance formed between all these nations, these indigenous people? I mean, there's evidence that supports Vikings actually were here way before Columbus. And in fact, literature suggests that the indigenous people actually staved off. I forgot what they called them. I forgot what their term for the Vikings were. In fact, I even forgot what the Vikings called the natives, and this will be up around Newfoundland, I believe. Darn it, I forgot the term. But they actually got the Vikings to leave. But had this type of allegiance formed, this country may. I mean, it. I'm sure, given the weaponry, there would be an eventual settlement, but it may not have been at the time, if it even was at that time. I cannot trust white history anymore. I mean, you think the Indian Wars ended in the 1850s when the treaties, which were all broken, by the way, by the government, by the United States, you think that warfare ended? Man, chicken to the McDonald's out of it. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It's worth it, right? Continuing with the numbers. Definition I want you to know: one, sovereign nation. And I saw this here on Google Almighty. The United States is a sovereign nation. Sovereignty is a simple idea. The United States is an independent nation governed by the American people that controls its own affairs. The American people adopted the Constitution and created the government. They elect their representatives and make their own laws. Hmm. Well, did you know that reservations are considered sovereign nations? Did you know that? They're supposed to be. If you want to laugh at Bush Jr., and this is a side note, go back and look when someone posed the question about what a sovereign nation was. I believe they were actually talking about Native American reservations, and watch him fumble around as he does not understand the definition of sovereignty. But I also read this about sovereign nations on Google today. Indian nations are allowed, within limits, to govern themselves. Many have their own police forces and courts. Tribal sovereignty in the United States refers to the inherent authority of indigenous tribes to govern themselves within the borders of the United States of America. Well, it sounds like they're saying, yeah, it's a sovereign nation, but it's within our borders. I mean, then again, is every state technically a sovereign nation? I mean, they do seem to have some of their own laws, and they have the right to govern within the borders. So are you saying that, does this mean that the reservations are considered a state within a state? Either way, is this not a war? I mean, if the Indian nation is a sovereign nation, as stated by our own government, is this not a war declared on another country? Just because it happens to be within the borders of the United States doesn't make it another country. You see, here in Kentucky, we have the the Toyota manufacturing plant. And it's stated and understood, once an employee enters the plant, he is no longer in the United States. He is on property of the country of Japan. And I have friends on the police force here, and sometimes they have to execute an arrest warrant for whatever. And if the person, if they need to execute an arrest warrant on an employee at Toyota, they do not have the authority to enter the plant, as it is not a part of the United States. Quite literally, they have no jurisdiction there. I mean, there are highly secured turnstiles to prohibit any unauthorized entry or exit without proper credentials. Now, do you need a passport? I don't know. But why then does this government have the authority on the reservation? I will state that whatever answer is told to me, I will hear it, but I will not accept it, no matter how logical it sounds, as it is based on white law, not those of the Creator. And laws of the Creator were very simple in the beginning. Another story told to me by this elder that when the Creator created the people of Turtle Island and placed them on the land, of all the races that were created, only one, and they all scattered to their places, only one race stopped and turned and asked the Creator, "What will you have us do?" And of course, the Creator said, "Be keepers of the earth. Take care of the earth. It is your home, it gives you life." So, why in the 70s was a Native American, I can't remember the man's name, an actor who cried at the sight of litter? The message is true. What they say is true. You need to take care of the planet. But hey, you know, we're tearing down all the resources, tearing the forest, digging in, taking the coal, taking the oil, you know. And here we have the opportunity to have sustainable resources. That sun is there for more, right? But as it's here at Standing Rock, the bulldozers have destroyed sacred burial sites. Bad when ISIS does it, it's okay here. Private security, now get this, who have no legal authority, some of which are, or at one time were, police officers or former military, have attacked innocent, peaceful, protesting Native Americans, including a 3-year-old girl who was bitten on the face by a German Shepherd. How the hell can you justify this? A baby attacked. Now, I don't know. I mean, some of the white media, some of the mainstream media is carrying this now. It's because they made enough noise. And this is what we should be doing. Because the first lesson I learned at Leech Lake, a man by the name of Guy Green told me. Of course, he may not go by his white name either now. But he turned and said to me, he was parching rice, and he said, all the creatures of this earth, 2-legged and 4-legged, animals and men, well, men and animals respectively, know they were given the knowledge of knowing right from wrong. And that has stuck with me. I may not have always followed it, but who does anyone ever completely? And if they do, then they are the ones to whom I want to listen. But can never be justified that a 3-year-old girl gets bitten in the face by a German Shepherd, much less a pregnant woman and horses. Literally, the Army is attacking Native Americans here in 2016. We have not evolved. We will never evolve. Not as long as there's a damn currency, a damn dollar to be made. I know what money is. A friend of mine, Clint Walker, told me. It is the tool by which we judge the value of all things. It is the standard of measure. And I get it, but I don't accept it. This will be known as one of the greatest, like I said, of historical moments in the plight of indigenous people on this continent. Like I said, many nations coming together to stop the one enemy. 500 years of oppression brings with it some karma, let me tell you. And that's just the natives. That's just the Native Americans. And I'll just leave that where it is. So how else is humanity failing today? And I'm going to end this pretty much as close